and welcome to the Sacred Rainbow Warrior. Welcome, my fellow warriors, fighting for the light. All right, today I'm going to talk about how to live in divine union and the secret to deep, lasting love. So, if you've been following my journey, you know that I have managed to go on an incredible healing journey with my partner Hazel, and we do our divine videos. Yeah, we do divine videos on divine union on our twin channel, Prophecy Walkers. My singular energy on this channel is a bit more direct, and the journey that I've been on in order to gain this level of wisdom has been, miraculous. It's been incredible, and we've uncovered things that just aren't taught to us through, how do I say, orthodox methods. And the sacrifices that are needed in order to come into divine union are extremely great. But the whole point and process of divine union, which is in my channel, I channeled the meaning of divine union, because the divine union essentially is the prophecy. It's the prophecy and union of love. It's the winning of love. It's the winning of the game of love. It's the healing of separation. And I channeled that bat in my podcast on the episode about the bat, the spirit animal, the bat, where I channel my ancestors. And I go into a lot of detail on why that separation creates denial. And we can talk about that, but I want to focus on the positives on how working in divine union it's completely not only is it life changing, but it's reality changing. It changed my whole outlook on who I am, on what the world is, lifting all the veils, and seeing what true magic truly looks like, what true shamanism is, what true friends are, what true tribe is, what true family is, and unlocking really profound gifts that I could never have done on my own without being in divine union, without being in service to love and being in service to the feminine. And what I learned on my journey was how to be a man, how to be a real man, how to be a gentleman. And this process has been terrifying, terrifying for my ego. And when I first met Hazel, she said, she started telling me about Divine Union. She downloaded it in through art. She drew it in art, and she said to me, "Do you want to know? Do you want to know what the work is about?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Okay, what I'm about to tell you is going to destroy your life. Are you okay with that?" And I said, "Absolutely. I'm all in." And she told me, and it completely destroyed my life. And that's the whole point of it, because we have, as a collective, we've created a lie. We created a veil, and that's what this upcoming apocalypse is lifting. And it's happening gradually. I think a lot of us wish it would happen abruptly, but it would be too shocking, because essentially it's a shame veil, and it lifts away the veil of illusion, which has stopped us from seeing the separation that we've caused between each other. And when I met Hazel, we met as friends. And because we met as friends, we were able to look each other in the eye and confess and expose all of the things that prevented us from being closer as friends, as men and women. And of course, eventually, we did so much deep work that we started to get these clues and messages from spirit that we denied over and over. You two are twin flames. You're supposed to be together. You're more than just friends. And I was like, no, no, she's not my type. Denying it and denying it and denying it. And it is because I was brainwashed by toxic masculinity to paint a picture of the perfect woman and what that looked like. And I had to surrender my logic, my thoughts on what I believed love to look like or be or feel. And it took me back to my innocence. and it opened up my heart, and I was able to reclaim my heart as a man who I had disassociated from my heart due to a lot of trauma. And it helped me remember who I am as a man at a soul level. And Cryon talks about that. If you Google Cryon with a K, and innate, he talks about the innate, the unlocking of the 12 layers of DNA. So we started doing that, and that was profound. I came into my bliss body and been integrating and unlocking the fifth dimensional rainbow body. And again, this work can't be done on your own. I've spoken about this in a previous video, because there's coding that the twin flame holds in their heart that is gifted by the other. It's like you share a how do I say, uh, um, an umbilical cord, like Pisces. The sign for Pisces, they share an umbilical cord, and it's the sign for divine union. And my partner Hazel is Pisces, and it is it means that you share. It's like you have a special place in your heart for your twin, and so you can't reach divine union without receiving that part of yourself in the other mirrored from your twin flame. And that's the coding that is needed in order to come into divine union. And I want to talk about how we do that, how we did that, and how we do that, how we live in divine union. And essentially, the path of divine union is as a twin flame, and the path is healing together. That was the purpose that brought Hazel and I together. We had a joint feeling that we wanted to heal, and because everybody else we met or came to, they they said they wanted to heal, but they didn't actually want to heal, and they would either get scared or sabotage us or just betray us as individuals before we met. But also when we met, we tried to work with others, and they also did the same. They just couldn't handle that level of love. And there's a reason for that. Again, I channeled that in my back podcast episode about how love is demonized. I spoke about it in my previous video as well. And it's because of that, it makes the ego run in the opposite direction and do horrible things. And we had to go through that process of forgiveness, compassion, and healing. And the healing journey that where we were both passionate about working with medicine and shamanism and just healing everything so that we could live our dreams, come into success, be who we're truly meant to be, and just, there's nothing greater than remembering who you are at a soul level. You come into such a profound state of love that when you get a taste of that, it's very upsetting when it leaves. And that's what happened to me multiple times over my journey. I had this massive awakening in 2020 where I came into my bliss body, and the GFL, the council of the GFL, the High Council, just appeared in front of me, and I was like, whoa. And they'd come to honor me, my sacrifice and my elevation, my ascension. But I didn't think much of it at the time, other than it was an incredible experience. But it was the beginning of something magnificent. And I had more awakenings and more awakenings because the soul just doesn't come in one drop. It comes in multiple pieces, like in broken shards, and you have to call that back. And the best way to do that is by sitting opposite your twin flame. And I achieved more in 2 weeks with Hazel when I first met her than I had in my whole spiritual journey. So you can do years worth of spiritual work, cleansing, shadow work, light work, whatever you want to call it. You can do years worth in divine union. That's how profound it is. That's how we got so far so quickly. If I could measure the amount of work I've done with Hazel, if I had to do that level of work on my own, it would take multiple lifetimes, and that's no exaggeration. Take multiple lifetimes. The level of work that I've done with her is just so deep. The uncovered wounds that I was completely unaware of. And I don't just mean unconscious, I mean hidden deep within the DNA, like genocide. I haven't experienced genocide in this lifetime, but I had in when it all began. Multiple times, my tribe slaughtered, and I was the lone survivor. And it's part of my destiny to carry that tribal essence within me through multiple lifetimes, through reincarnation. That's what my Bat episode podcast is about. And I still haven't finished part two because it's so deep and so profound. I had to go through a grief portal of grieving that before I could channel it. And this is the kind of stuff that comes up in Divine Union. It's so magical. I love talking about it. And um, the difficulty that men will have that I had is, and I saw other men stop, is that there comes a level of devotion where it has to happen in friendship. It'd be more difficult in a relationship. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's more difficult because of sexuality. Because getting to that point of sexuality is very challenging. It's why it's best to start as in friendship. And your twin flame will feel like a friend or a brother anyway at first because the love is so big. And it's so deep, it feels like a part of you. And so you would, when you look at your mirror, when you look at that level of love, it does feel like part of you. And so it's easy to believe that that person is a friend or before a lover. And um, when you are, when we are, yeah, we always are living in this energy of healing ourselves and each other in the mirror. It unlocks hidden gifts that were lost to trauma and abuse through past relationships, um, parenting, childhood, accidents, um, yeah, just loads of trauma related stuff. And it's really special to be witnessed by someone who has no ulterior, ulterior, what's the word? Ulterior motive. And that's what Hazel said about me when we talk about we reminisce a lot behind the scenes about our journey because we find our journey really special and we express a lot of love to each other when we feel it. And we were talking about it the other day and Hazel said we were giving gratitude to each other. And Hazel said to me, when you turned up on my doorstep, I knew instantly that I'd never met a man like you. And I was like, why? She goes, because I could feel that you didn't have an ulterior motive. And that's really profound. And this is why um, we were friends first, because that is all I was searching for was a friend. And men do get a bad rep, understandably, in that arena because of the sexualization of creation and the feminine and innocence. And I've done plenty of videos on that. But the level of healing that is available between man and woman in this arena is just incredible. It's magnificent. And it it goes really deep and it can go really high. And I've spoken about how men and women have their own comfortability zones. Men are very comfortable in the high arena of light. Women hide there, and in the depth, women are very comfortable in that deep, dark feeling and sensuality, and men are terrified of it and have a lot of judgments on it. And I had to go through all of that, and I couldn't have done it without Hazel, a magnificent guide, and she couldn't do the light part without me because I'm also a magnificent guide. And we managed to retrieve those parts of ourselves so that I could again become a master of my own depth, and she could become a master of her own divinity. And together we find that deep and divine within the heart, where we're not leaving the body, but we simply are in the body and being present here on earth as star seeds that are seeded here on earth. And it takes a lot of humbling of the ego, a lot of ego death, And there's so many walk-ins. I've lost count of how many I've had, but each one is always a great surprise. Sometimes my eyes go crossed. Sometimes I feel like I'm gonna die or go crazy. And sometimes I scream woo because it's just so much joy comes in. Other times I grieve and I cry for hours because of receiving back something that I lost. And to be witnessed in that, it's beautiful. If you check out my episode of my podcast about the robin, he's a witness. The robin is a witness, he witnessed Jeshua, and it's about friendship. And yeah, wow, I never realized that. Yeah, I'm just feeling the vibration of that. Is that part of my friendship with Hazel is that she witnessed me and I witnessed her. And that's really beautiful to witness people expressing their grief, their pain, their shame, their joy, and their innocence. And that was one of the things which we found really difficult to show to each other, which took several years, was our innocence, because our innocence had been so abused formerly. And so what we started to do is we went deeper and deeper, and we got to the desecration of love, the annulling of the sacred, and the healing process that was involved in that. And what I mean by the desecration and the annulling of the sacred love is what making love truly means compared to sex, money, and power. I mean, it's been completely desecrated. Women have been desecrated, men have been desecrated, and everybody's participated in that desecration of the sacred. And it happened a very long time ago. And because of all these karmic wounds and this passing down of the Akash of these wounds through our parents, there's been so much passing of the buck, but it stops here. It stops now. This is what Hayes and I did. We decided it stops with us. We said no, no more. And this is the healing of the war between man and woman, and that is divine union. And this is what we are. This is part of our destiny through the prophecy walkers of sharing this wisdom of how do we stop the war? Because when one man stops the war within himself in divine union with a woman, it sends out a ripple out into the collective, and it helps stop the collective war that is happening. And there's so many wars going on. Like I feel it, and I find it very difficult to turn up in my joy when there's. I woke up this morning, and I try not to go on the news, but when I'm feeling crap, I know there's something going on in the collective. And I was reading about the Diddy trial, and I nearly vomited at the stuff that he's done. It's disgusting. I suggest you don't Google it, honestly. Just don't put yourself through that. And another war started today. Like there's Israel and Palestine, Ukraine and Russia, now Iran and Israel. And oh my God. And I feel it. And I'm like, just stop. Just stop. But there's nothing I can do. It's nothing to do with me, really. And so I can only take account for my own journey. And this is what Hazel and I decided, is that we spent years trying to help the collective. And we did. But what we realized, and Spirit told us, is that we help more if we work on ourselves. Because when one person can do it, other people can feel that vibration. You can feel my vibration. You can feel it through my voice, but you can also feel it through my presence. And that vibration is contagious. It's love, and love can be contagious if we stop being afraid of it. Love really, I know it sounds corny, but I had to go through this and learn this process. Love really is the answer, but it's such a big word that it needs to be given context to. But working in divine union brings an end to the war between not just the women outside of you and the women in the world, but that the parts of ourselves inside that we've been fighting with the ego, all the stuff that makes us miserable, all of the stuff that we're ashamed of, all the things that prevent us from making our dreams come true, or there's so many things. And it's such a profound journey, and a really honorable journey to take, that journey of death and rebirth and life again through reincarnation in this life. This is what Jesus did. And it's been kept a secret, but I've proven with my partner that it's available, and it's necessary, and it can be taught. But it has to come for the masculine, it has to come from the feminine, because that's where the gift comes from. It comes from Gaia. And the the deep-seated wounds of betrayal between the masculine and the feminine go all the way back to the beginning of it all, before even Earth. It goes back to the original sin of separation between God and the goddess, between origin wanting to know itself and split itself infinitely. And it can get really deep and really profoundly fun. And I even filmed myself in ceremony on Prophecy Walkers, showing what it was like to heal the mother wound, which I thought was impossible. Excuse me, itchy foot. And I received the Holy Grail, which was just, it's one of the best feelings I've ever felt in my life, if not the best feeling. It was just incredible. It was such a relief. But then I have the mission of integrating that, and that's my thing. Integration is profound. It's part of the prophecy, part of the sacred rainbow warrior prophecy, the rainbow bridge. It's the stitches over the wound of separation that bring the healing together into wholeness. And this is what I've been guiding Hazel with, and she's been guiding me. I'm definitely all about rainbows, and she's all about the deep. And one of the things she said to me about destroying my life is that's one thing that is completely necessary. We have to give up our old lives and surrender to the healing of that. And I had to grieve that. I even held a funeral for myself, a private funeral with Hazel and I, where I grieved myself, and I cried for hours because I really did die, and I really had to grieve the fact that I couldn't make his dreams come true. And so this process of coming together and working this profoundly helps you make your dreams come true. And when I talk about dreams, I don't mean having a fast car, house, kids, and being, loads of cash in the bank like the crap they sell us. I'm talking about the lost heart's desires that you forgot about. It's so magnificent. I won't spoil it for you. I won't tell you what my heart's desires were, because I want you to find your own heart's desires, and I don't want my heart's desires think that that's what your heart desire might be. It's it's so many different desires came through for me, all these brilliant ideas of how to begin my new life and how it's going to bloom. And it's a huge responsibility, and it takes an enormous amount of devotion and sacrifice. And I always say it's worth it, but I can tell you I have some days when I want to give up, but I just keep going. And like this morning was one of those times where I thought, "Phew, how am I going to keep going?" And I went for a run to move that emotion through me. That's one of the pillars of integration that I talk about all the time is movement through intense exercise. And it helped me move my emotions through it. And then I come to creation, so making this video and sharing, being in service, that's another form of integration. And being in service to myself and being service to others is a really good way of finding self-acceptance of love within yourself, because you are serving yourself by nurturing your gifts, your purpose, your body, your health, and your heart. And this is what we had to learn. We learned so much on our journey, but we had to learn it the hard way because, it was nobody had treaded that path before. It's never been done before. And that we were told that by our guides, but it's it's also pretty obvious. There's been no divine holy couples in the history of anything that I've ever heard of or read, and Hazel too. And you always find a holy man or a holy woman, but they're never together. And it's to do with the prophecy of love, the healing of separation. And it means honoring each other, um, and honoring each other by highlighting what needs to be seen, what needs to be healed. And when we're honoring each other, it's like, for example, if I shared a really deep wound of humiliation, she would then say, "Oh, well, thank you for sharing that with me." And that, that then helped me understand why that happened to me, because essentially it creates mirroring, and I'll talk about that. And this helps foster trust, growth, and understanding within the friendship, aka the relationship. And there are challenges with being speaking with that level of openness and honesty. And for some reason, I didn't have a problem with that, but I know most people do, because I found a way through it. I found a way of being able to be open and share about all those toxic things because I knew they weren't mine, but I was taking responsibility for them. And when you realize that nothing's yours, it's only borrowed, then you can share anything. And I learned this by, um, I would like to say, going places where I shouldn't have gone in the spiritual world. But my soul journey was obviously part of that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gone there. And I learned about, a bit like in the movie The Matrix, where Neo gets pulled out and he vomits after he's seen the truth, and that happened to me. It was very similar to that. I I I was shown the truth and I vomited, and I wasn't. It wasn't a purge medicine. It was a shock purge. It was like, oh my God. And because I learned that, um, it really gave me the fuel I needed to fully understand my dark side and why the dark side existed and why I had so much trouble accepting myself and the feminine and accepting love. And it nearly killed me. And it nearly sent my partner crazy because when you look into the abyss, it always looks back. And so I always guide people away from that because it's completely pointless. It's a waste of time. And I made those mistakes so you don't have to. But I learned a lot. I learned about like I said, why all of these issues are here, why we have narcissism, which essentially is the root of all of it, and how to heal it. And I'm able to do that because I'm a masculine. I'm in a masculine vessel. And the masculine is like the white blood cell, and the feminine is like the red blood cell. And the gift of the white blood cell is that it can surround the foreign entity and digest it. But if it doesn't recognize that, it can evolve and change its shape so that it can make it destroy it or make it less harmful. And this is what I did. I evolved through my journey to constantly change, to become more and more like myself, constantly recreating myself into a more evolved man, soul, even, because that's why we're here to recreate ourselves constantly and continuously. And through that, I was able to heal my partner and myself. And it was really good fun to be able to put turn something traumatic into a gift that can help people heal. And that's what I've been doing. And so through honoring each other, we can unlock really profound gifts in each other. Now, I want to talk about control. One of the most difficulties of being a man working opposite a woman, and this is in the feminine as well, but not so much, is control, trying to control the feminine. And this is one of the things that showed itself at the beginning. and it's very difficult to change because it comes through being afraid of the unknown and being afraid of death, which is a really big thing to try and overcome. And it leads to immortality. And immortality doesn't mean you live physically forever, it means you live in the moment forever, dying, being reborn, and coming to life. It's like this, the triple goddess of reincarnation in the moment. That's immortality. And with control, it is essentially a form of slavery and enslavement, and it causes a lot of problems. And so the best way to release control is to learn how to surrender to the feminine. And that means learning how to surrender to love. And it's difficult for a man because it requires a lot of depth, deep feeling, and patience. And the level of depth that is needed means that a man has to go into his own darkness and feel it and take responsibility for that toxic shame that's there. So that's the best way to come into control, and to be witness taking responsibility for that boy by your partner is also very healing for them. So when you acknowledge in front of a woman, and I'm really sorry if what I'm learning from myself is that I'm controlling you or I have controlled you. And so, and then I would say, I take that control away from you. I unchain you, and like instantly, she would feel safer, lighter, and a huge relief. And there are so many of these illusions that we put on each other that it takes an enormous amount of devotion, dedication, and another reason why Hazel and I managed to do it so quickly is because we did it every day for at least 8 hours a day for about 1,000 days straight. And then when that journey of the inward journey ends, there's the outward journey, which mirrors how long it takes on the inward. So if you've gone in for a year and then you want to take your outward journey, it doesn't work that way. But I'm just giving you an easy example. Then it would take you a year to integrate and express that. Um, and this is a really profound way of making your dreams come true together. You'll have your own singular dreams as feminine and masculine, but you'll have a joint destiny as well, which will be bigger than both, and it'd be about your service, your being in service to humanity, which is what Prophecy Walkers is about. So, another thing is codependency. We worked on that a lot about enjoying your own company and realizing that codependency comes from a form of loneliness, and coming together isn't about this attachment where you're glued together all the time. Divine union's not about that. Divine union's about interdependence. But you have to come close in order to realize that you are codependent, and you have to have a form of conscious separation to realize that there's an enormous amount of love there as well. And I don't mean like having a break in a relationship, which the spiritual community talks about conscious separation, but it's not conscious at all. If you're separating and not coming back together, then it's just separation. But in a twin flame relationship, we studied that and we used that to benefit us by having 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks of no contact, but living together and separate bedrooms. And it had such a profound benefit. And it taught us a lot about codependency and interdependence, and it allowed us to come into our own energy field. And when you come into your own energy field away from codependency, there's takes away control, rescuing, victim mind, and it allows you to come into your own solitude within your body, which means you find a deeper connection to yourself and find joy in spending time alone, which a lot of people enjoy, but some people don't know how to do. And some people have the opposite challenge of spending a lot of time with someone. But all of those can be exposed through all of that work. Um, Another thing we did, we sat opposite each other many times, and we exposed ourselves, or we exposed the other, but without blame or projection or judgment. But often those would come up. So blame, projection, judgment would come up when we got close to the heart, or to something that was a really deep wound, and we would say to each other through, communicating to each other in a loving way, the that it's causing pain. There's a pain trigger that is being caused, and to just take a deep breath and read the judgment, read the blame. So if there was a judgment on me that I was perverted or lying, we would mirror that back and say, okay, what am I perverting in myself, and where am I lying to myself? And perversion is like perverting the course of justice through enslavement and control of sexuality. Again, that's the shadow of the bat, which I write about in my podcast. And what we always say, our number one rule is it's personal, but it's not personal, which means it feels really personal. But because we know it's ego and it's not ours, we surrender and we let it go because it's not ours, it's not personal, but it feels personal. And so in your average relationship, if you made a judgment, that person would explode and go, "How dare you say that?" But when you work in divine union, you make that judgment, and you say, "Okay, where does that come from?" And you trace it back with memory or feeling. And as soon as you acknowledge it, I speak about this so much in my videos. Acknowledgement is a form of love. When you acknowledge something, you can allow it to leave and let it go. Because as soon as you're giving something love, it's been acknowledged, it can detach. Because most things attach to us because they're looking for love. Um, Projection's a big one. It's really like a third eye illusion, where like the third eye is like a projector, like a cinema screen projector. And the way this is projected from a masculine is we project women to be dirty and whores and liars, and women project men to be perverted, power hungry, and liars. And there's truth to both of that. But when you're in a going through a purification process, and you've purified those parts of yourself, and those projections are still coming, that means that that person has to take ownership and acknowledge those projections and judgments within themselves. And so it can get pretty advanced. Um, and the reason it gets so difficult is the shame that's attached to sharing. And I found that a lot of people don't confess their fears for fear of creating them. And that's another illusion. And another one is humiliation. I speak about this in my videos about sharing, is the fear of being humiliated. That's why it's important to be held by someone in space and witness without judgment or accusation. Only love, to be held in that place of love. And it's so healing because when you sat opposite a woman, you are being held by not only by your lover, but by your friend, by your sister, by your mother, by the feminine. And the same is true for her. She'd be held by um, son, father, brother, lover, friend, God. It goes through all the archetypes of the masculine, and it's profoundly healing. For example, I exposed my own toxic masculinity, narcissism, and I found it abnormal that other men don't do that. I don't understand that, because why bother lying when you know that you are partly responsible? And I think this is key, is to just completely surrender to the fact that you can't attain a level of divine presence, of divine sovereignty, without exposing all of your lies and just taking full responsibility for it. And when you do that, as soon as you do that, you're going to quantum leap, and you're just going to keep moving forward. You have to just keep moving forward. And when you keep moving forward and taking one step in front of the other, you will start to attune to the vibration of the journey and learn what each next step is and why you're having to go through this, because your soul will start to be freed. Your intuition will start to free itself and you will start to feel. And this is especially valuable for men. I've said this so many times. I think women take it for granted. They're very nonchalant about their gifts because they're very powerful. They're born that way and they're more heart-centered. And um, when I, as a man, recovered those gifts for myself, I was blown away. And I realized how far behind I was from the feminine. But through lots of sacrifice and devotion, I managed to find that equality by sitting opposite Hazel and learning from her as a mentor of love, and realizing that women are our greatest mentors. And I think that's why men struggle to accept that. And I would probably previously have got called names for that, for supporting the feminine, because that is toxic masculinity. And in my past life, I would have behaved like that as well. And I call it my past life because I have died, but I know that I behaved that way and I took responsibility for that. Another thing is creating success together, right? This is really important. And this is about dreaming together. What does it mean to create success together? Well, when all of your dreams have been taken and you've stripped down to, your pure essence of who you are, you realize that all of the dreams you had weren't your dreams. They weren't your dreams. They were society's way of pushing you into a corner to, or not so much a corner, but like to be part of that rat race of survival, or just taking advantage of other people, essentially becoming part of all of that distortion. And so when you get rid of that and you exit the matrix and you see what is available, the sky isn't even your limit. There are no limits. Excuse me. And so we made our dreams big, but it wasn't about making our dreams big. It was about discovering, knowing, and really accepting our divine purpose together and our divine destiny. Excuse me. And we learned that by taking the journey. And I learned it through the process of animal wisdom, through the chakra system, because there's a level of DNA decoding that I managed to gain access to that helped me understand how do I say, the human and the DNA coding, and why unlocking our DNA is so profoundly important. So, creating success together is profound. And this is what Hazel and I are doing. And we really appreciate if you would donate towards our cause, because we're trying to bring this level of healing and this level of love in service to humanity, and it is our full-time job. So there are in my notes there is a donation link. So really, really appreciate if you could make a donation. So thank you very much. Another thing we do is honoring each other's gifts. How can partners identify and honor each other's unique gifts? Well, we were doing that by encouraging each other to bring that gift out more. Like, for example, Hazel's an incredible artist, and so I'd encourage her art, and she'd be like, "Wow, no man's ever done that to me before." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And for me, it was about being listened to. I was never listened to, and Hazel listened to me, and it's because I'm a good speaker. I am good at cutting through the shit and getting straight to the truth. And I'm articulate and authentic because I work with that sword energy of integrity. It's part of who I am. And so Hazel encouraged that in me, and that I created this channel, and I was able to share my wisdom and healing, and this is part of my purpose. And so honoring each other's gifts has a really profound impact on a relationship, because instead of preventing each other from growing, which is what toxic relationships do out of fear of abandonment, we encouraged each other to grow, and it brought us closer together. So that's really profound. If we don't recognize each other's gifts, then that person finds it difficult to come out and become who they truly are. And if that's happening, that means there's some form of control and enslavement. The last thing I want to talk about, which is probably the most important, is mirroring each other. So when we when we look at the other and we have judgments or they make us feel a certain way, it's mirroring what's inside us because in oneness, everyone is a mirror of love, and the brighter someone shines, the more they mirror what is available. And it's enormous in your personal growth and self-awareness. It creates enormous quantum leaps. And the psychological implications of seeing yourself in the other reflected in positively and negatively are just profound. Because if you're triggered by something, like if you're triggered by something I said, you use that as an example where you feel yourself turn away in avoidance or have a judgment on it, like, oh, that's not right, or he doesn't know what he's talking about. If I had that judgment with my partner Hazel, I would turn it back on myself instantly and go, okay, what is it in me that is believes that about myself? So if I thought that she was like there was this instance where I thought she was playing around and not listening to me, so I told her to shut up. It's like when we first met, and she just laughed in my face. And I got so angry, and then I realized, oh, this is ego. What is it? And I turned it on myself. And I found it hilarious that I was trying to silence the feminine because I knew that I love the feminine, like that was part of who I am. And I was silencing myself. And I went on a long journey with that and realized that violence is silence. And I had experienced a lot of violence in my life. And when you experience a lot of physical violence into the body, it's very difficult to get out of the body and requires a lot of not just grieving and verbal exposure through what I'm talking about in mirror work, but a lot of self-care, nurturance, and physical well-being to move that energy out and to outgrow it essentially, because violence stumps our growth and it makes us afraid to speak up. And any form of abuse can be violent. You know, rape is violent. Telling someone to shut up is violent. It's emotional abuse. It's emotional violence. And violence, like I said, is silence. So when we mirror back triggers and judgments, it can be so profound. Like a trigger, if someone tells you not to do that and it triggers you, you can search for that pain, like you can tune into it and go, oh, what is that pain? What is that pain? And by acknowledging it, you're healing it. So when someone triggers you, they're actually doing you a favor because they're pointing out where you need healing. And so I found that in my relationship when I was sat opposite Hazel, the more we triggered each other, the more profoundly we were able to heal each other and make quantum leaps. But I did notice that the longer it went on, the more deep the wounds were and the more difficult it was to mirror back. But we would always come back to it's personal, but it's not personal. So I hope that helps you. I hope that helps someone learn what it really takes. I mean, it's so big. I've only just really touched on the surface levels of what that is. But if you want to work with me personally and or with Hazel or with us both on this level, just check out my website and there's prices on there and just get in contact as well. If you need help, just get in contact. But I hope this helped and I hope you enjoy your weekend. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.